All right. Three, two, and one. Hello, my people, my people. Welcome back to another amazing show. Today, we're going to be just thrilled to just be able to talk to someone who's doing an excellent job out in the universe, putting some great things out. Uh, just been doing some just excellent, real excellent things, and I just can't wait to just be blessed by his presence here today. I got a chance to just converse with him closely on the other side. It sounds like he was in his car, so so it's going to be pretty amazing to just hear from this awesome person. Who I'm talking about? I'm talking about someone who was born in the British West Indies, and he's the eldest of three boys. His passions is definitely in writing, of course, and also in painting. His second book it definitely highlights some things that we're going to be talking about. It dives into the fantasy world, and you definitely want to keep your ears glued into this one, as the book has some short stories in it. He has some paper books that is doing very, very well. He definitely has been recognized in the International Society of Poets for outstanding achievement in poetry. Uh, and he, by the way, I noted earlier that he is a painter. He paints with both watercolors and digital art, which has helped create some what you'll see on phase.com. So I'm talking about Glenn D. Glasgow. So he's going to tell you more about himself and much, much more. So without further ado, hello, Glenn.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. Glenn, um,
Thank
go
you.
ahead and tell us about yourself in your own words, and tell us about your transformation journey, if you will, from where you started to where you are now.
Okay, as you mentioned earlier, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm from the British West Indies, St. Vincent, actually. Grew up in the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix. Moved to the U.S. mainland in 1992 and have lived in Orlando ever since then. One of the things I like to do, I like to I like to actually write about the things in society, but I don't like writing about it from the point of view as the naked eye sees it. I like to look at it from the point of view of, say, the object itself. My first book, which was called Our Market, looks at fruits and vegetables in the U.S., but they represent the people in the U.S. from the regions of the country that they come from, like peanuts from the south and like apples from the northwest, stuff like that. And it looks at our society and it takes on the role of the people in our society from the fruits and vegetables point of view. My book that we were talking about today, Phase, what looks at the construction of Noah's Ark, the pyramids, and Stonehenge, but it looks at it from the point of view of the tools from that time period that may have been used to assemble those structures. Um, it uses some biblical reference without exactly endorsing any particular religion, because I don't like to present a point of view of a particular religion where it appears it favors one religion over another. I think all religions are respectable. I think all religions have a purpose. So I don't like to incorporate anything in my writing. In all my books, actually, they incorporate a lot of religious themes, but it does not specifically endorse or recognize any one over the other. I welcome everybody equally. So that's one of the things what I do. I when I write my characters, albeit whether it be tools or fruits or vegetables or what to have you, they all may represent something that someone can identify with in their readings, in their religious upbringing, but it doesn't endorse anyone in particular.
Well, yeah, that's pretty amazing. And you know, and it's quite quite great that you are really embracing a spirituality aspect to it. It quite seems like you have a closeness with spirituality, if you will. Is there any particular aspect of that that's uh, which you make that a part of your life?
I try to in my everyday life. One of the my big thing, like on my website, one of the actually the slogan of my website is follow through. Um, I'm a strong believer in somebody that says they're going to do something, whatever, they follow through with that. Um, I believe in honestly, a lot of people tell me I come across as being too direct, too blunt. Um, but I could tell people exactly what I'm thinking, not have it, say, well, Glenn said this, but he actually doing this. I mean, I don't like that. I don't like people that do that as well. As far as spirituality goes, ever since I was brought up from the time I was small, I've always been, actually, my parents actually insisted that we, go to church on Sundays, blah, blah, blah. But as I got older, I didn't particularly stick to that particular belief in that particular religion. I've been to other countries like Japan, then the
Yeah.
Muslim countries where I've been to their services and experienced their services, and I respect those services as well, and those religions and those cultures. So I like writing that writing that incorporates different religion, different point of view, but make it more simplified for like in layman's terms that people reading it they can identify themselves in that, whether no matter what religious belief they may grow up believing.
Yeah, and that's definitely the direction, I believe that we all are headed into as we move forward in this new decade, where we are seeing that people who are more consciously aware, and as or I guess the buzzword of the day is woke. So
Yes,
uh,
yes,
yeah, are are embracing this closeness and oneness, and and acceptance of everyone, and not so close minded, and just one track mind, and have this one trick pony, for just one faith. And you can have your faith, and you can be very personal with what you believe in, but you definitely should be, very open to what others are, doing in their own privacy, and be respectful to that. So I applaud you for that. Have it definitely catapulted you to be able to be focused when you are being creative.
absolutely. One of the things I try to avoid, I mean, I do my best to avoid, is like television. I'm not a big person to watch. I'm not a big fan of TV because I think a lot of the most of our networks, whatever they may be, they favor ones that whether it's to the left or to the right. They tend to, focus on just that one thing, and no one likes seeing a different point of view from the other side. Um, my writings, what I do my best to do, is try to keep everything in the middle and incorporate things that people, no matter what side of the aisle they're at politically or religiously, no matter what side they're on, they can identify it with and say, "Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense," or "That can happen," or not necessarily "I agree with that," or "I think that is right," or "that is wrong," but they can identify with it and they can accept it, as being a possibility, without having to say, "Well, I don't agree with that," or "That's too far or to the right or too far to the left." I can identify with that and I can actually enjoy that. That's what I try to do.
Yes. That's so refreshing to hear that, and we definitely need more people like that And with the way the climate is now, there's so many people rallying to sway you to one side or the other, in pop culture especially. um it's really hard, and I think people don't know how to find an outlet uh to escape from from what's happening in the main street. And I think your book would be very helpful for a lot of those people that's looking for a way to cope with some of the toxicity that they are exposed to, um, in the main street.
Yeah.
So tell us, if we wanted to alleviate some of the ills and woes of what we are exposed to on a daily basis, which book will we want to start with to just try to escape some of the reality of everyday life?
I would actually start with my last one and move back with my first book, was called Our Market.
Hmm.
Second book was a little off and Andy, and the third was Phased. Now, the third one, I would start that one and move move forward. Reason being, the third one, it looks at something. It's a little lighter subject matter, I should say, because it looks at the construction of the pyramids. Things that people find interesting.
Right.
It looks at the construction of them, and it ties. It's based on the early '90s theory of 6 degrees of separation, in that we're all connected by six different people, and the tools that were used to build these projects and how they were all connected were all connected through six different tools. Like, for example, back in those days, they may have used rocks with sharp points. I.e., today we use chisels and we use the big, the backhoes and stuff like that to drill these holes. And the book shows you how all these tools are connected through their ancestors, where they all actually all started. And it's a reflection of society that through the years, we have quote unquote evolved. Some people may not believe that quote unquote evolved, have moved on, whether it be intellectually or our engineering has evolved. And to today is where we are using the stuff that we use today to build these same projects, these giant skyscrapers or massive highways and stuff like that. And these tools that were used to build these projects back then are the ancestors of today's modern tools. And then if you wanted to read something further from me, you go further back into my first book, which was Our Market. Like I said, it looks at the fruits and vegetables in the U.S. particularly, and the areas that they came from, which represent the people in that society. It takes on aspects of society that we have on an everyday basis, whether it's drug use or crimes and the likes. The books actually looks through all that, and it looks through it from the point of view of the fruits and vegetables, what they may have gone through, if they're from the time they're harvested to the time they're actually taken to the market and eventually consumed. So I would start with phase and just work my way back that way.
Wow, that is a good way to, like, to start, and then and to get more in depth, and to get more connected with you, and in your way of thinking, and the way you view the world. um so that's great. That's truly phenomenal. And I love it. I truly love it. I'm very intrigued, and very ready to to dive in myself. uh uh with, so what would you do, like, I gotta ask you this. So what would you do with you know um looking at our market and how it's set up? um what would you do with, and we know the origins of Valentine's Day, and we know how they, they market it today. What would you do with a story like Valentine's Day, uh in your in with your mindset? and
You
with your
might want
creative.
to think
Yeah, I'm just,
Valentine's if I was
uh,
to,
yeah. If you was to write it,
absolutely. If I
yeah,
was to write something about Valentine's Day, I
yeah,
would my story would more than likely be about flowers and postcards. It would be a setting like it's a store where flowers are picked together in whatever flower farm they come from, and they're together in the supermarket, and how they interact with each other, and then they eventually end up going to, say, two or three different quote unquote couples. And I would look at it from the point of view where the flowers end up where one couple, say, you have a male and female, another couple is female female or male male, whatever the situation is. And we always say, if these walls can talk, and I'd like to be a fly on that wall. Look
yeah,
at the flowers and the conversation that those people would have around those flowers. What triggered that? How did they pay for, even how they paid for it, whether it was cash or charge, whatever the case may be. But it will be completely from the flowers' point of view, and dealing with Valentine's Day, how they end up, and eventually the story would conclude when those flowers eventually wither away. What's the conversation like from the people around them once those flowers actually, wither away and are planted outside or tossed away, whatever the case may be.
fascinating. Yeah, some people, and some people wouldn't write it that way, and that's the remarkable part about it, and that's why a lot of people would enjoy our market. Uh, you know, it takes us a much deeper look into what we so often ignore. We oftentimes just look at the big picture and not at the finer details of everything, and the little deep the and I think that's why painters are I think that's the gifts that painters have, the ability to capture small details. So tell us a little bit about your
Exactly.
tell us a little bit about your paintings. We got a little bit left. We were scheduled for 20 minutes. We got a little bit left.
The paintings on my site were actually taken down because I wanted to make room. As the old saying, "Go less is more." So I wanted to make room for posters and
Okay.
just shirts. And the paintings that I used to do, they were of everyday things. Like some of the things that people say on a daily basis, I would create there in an artwork based on that saying. There are about two or three of that saying, of those sayings, still on my website, but they're very, very few and far between. Like I said, I really wanted to get away from from quote unquote painting and just focus on shirts and writing of posters. I create these quotes that are in my book, actually my books, I should say, and I take these quotes out of these books and I create posters of them and actually place them on my website. So there's not so much paintings anymore that's on the website. It's more just the shirts and posters of my writing.
Okay. I got one picked out here. The best a man can do for his future is not to forget his past. For him to have happiness tomorrow, he must enjoy today. Okay, tell us a little bit about that one.
That one is that's one of the things I read, but they're actually taken from conversations in my book. In Face, for example, there is a canteen that actually supplies water to the tools, and it's comes across as more like a wise guy, or who would we equate that? Like something like Darth Vader in today's society. Just a wise guy who
Okay.
would make would as it talks to people, it would just tell them, these wise quotes, that they can live by, and that's where these things are taken from. So if you were to read the books, you will see these same quotes are used throughout the books. I just take these individual quotes, and just make them into separate, entities on their own. Um, one of the things that I do as well is taking the popular. Take for example, one of the quotes I had up on the I have I should say on the site was people always call when someone places a call to a company, says their call is very important to us, blah blah blah, please hold, whatever. One of the quotes I wrote
Yeah.
was one of the quotes I wrote was incorporating spirituality again. One of the quotes I wrote was prayers are answered in the order in which they're received, so hang in there. And
Yeah.
that was one that a lot of people like, stuff like that. I try to incorporate, aspects of society that people can identify with without being offended or saying it's too, religious or it's too political or something like that in all my writing.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. I'm gonna look for that one right now. I gotta purchase that one. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah. You guys gotta check these out. I'm looking at these right now. So whenever you guys do get a chance out there, do check out phased.com. That's PHZED. Definitely it's titled after the book. These are phenomenal, and it has the little fish guy at the corner of some of these quotes, and he looks pretty pretty cool. So looks like he's burping up these quotes. So this is pretty phenomenal. So I love it. You definitely got some great stuff going on here. Um, yeah. So yeah. With that being said, as we get close here, so it is there any additional words of wisdom you want to pass on to us that you definitely definitely got it packed in and like and kind of like you subliminally like just dropping stuff in the books, but like out of your own words, what would you like to like just uh, encourage us with today?
Um, as the old saying goes, never judge a book by its cover. I think we should apply that to our to people, whether it be the people we live with, the people we work with, the neighbors, our politicians. Even though we may not be of that particular political party, I think a lot of things that goes on today in Washington, the decisiveness, I think a lot of that is unnecessary. Um, we should focus more on things we have in common more than things we, you know, do not agree with. We're all humans. We're all Americans. We all breathe the same air. We all have to fill up the car when it learns low on gas. We all have to do these things. I think as a society, if we focus more on the things we have in common as opposed to the thing that make us different in whatever way, I think that would be more beneficial to our society. Learn to accept our differences as opposed to um, singling it out or pointing it out as a conversation starter. When we see somebody that may look different or act different than we, that shouldn't be the first thing that we focus on. We should look at that person and go, oh, what did they have for breakfast? Maybe we had the same thing and just start a conversation based on that. Oh, the eggs, where did that come from? That's the things I think that would make our society better off.
That is so true. You hit the nail right on the coffin, and you cannot had said it, much better. We appreciate you so much, and what you're doing for humanity. Continue on doing it. Tell us where we can find the books. All three of them.
They're all on Amazon, and they're not on my website. There was a reason for that. I wanted to the books to be available at Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and from the individual publishers. I didn't put them on my website because like I said earlier, I wanted to on my website just to concentrate on shirts and posters and of the likes. And the books are just available online from your local booksellers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We thank you for that. So, but definitely check out the shirts though. Check do all three books, and as he said, go backwards. That is, I think that would be the best way to do it. I definitely going to be intrigued myself and do some shopping. Um, just be great gifts, great gifts for anyone. So thank you so much, Glenn. Do hold the line here. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls out there, so we just had an awesome conversation. With Glenn, he's the authors of Our Market, Little Orphan Andy, and Phase. And as he mentioned, those books are on Amazon, and he has the T-shirt site, phase.com. Uh, And that's all we have for you today. Do continue to replay back this episode over and over and over again. Share with your family, friends, and even your frenemies. So if you got frenemies out there, they will become your friends after they hear this. They will enjoy it so much more. And thank you much more for sharing this awesome episode. And so until next time, I'm your host, Marcus Hart. Many blessings, peace, and lots of love. Hello, Glenn.
Right.